Do you remember the name Elijah Dickin? Well, if you don't, it's not surprising. He was a good guy with a gun, but the media didn't talk much about him. I'll tell you why. Elijah Dickin was the 22-year-old man who shot and killed a mass murderer at a mall in Greenwood, Indiana on July 17th, 2022. Now, he killed the bad guy from 40 yards away with a handgun under what would most likely be a very chaotic situation with a lot of variables to be concerned with. Now, the decision-making and the control of this 22-year-old man should be applauded. But the media would rather you forget about Elijah because they don't want you to think that carrying a firearm in public could ever result in a positive outcome. They even pushed a narrative in an attempt to squash the heroism of this man when they said things like, rare in U.S. for an active shooter to be stopped by bystander. Now, the last thing the media wants you to think is that carrying a gun in public will save lives. But the truth is, it does, every day. The average response time for police is 10 minutes, but Elijah took his first shot within 15 seconds of the attack, and the bad guy was out of commission. Now, Johnson County Coroner Mike Pruitt said an autopsy found the suspect had 8 gunshot wounds and none were self-inflicted. 8 hits, 40 yards away with a handgun. According to Police Chief James Eisen, the surveillance video shows Sapperman exited the restroom at 5:56 and 48 seconds p.m. He was neutralized by Dickin at 5:57 and 3 seconds p.m. What's that saying? When seconds count, cops are minutes away? Here you have the police chief himself admitting it. So 3 people were killed that day in the Greenwood, Indiana mall. But if Elijah Dickin wasn't there with his concealed Glock, you can imagine how many more people would have died. If 3 people were killed in 15 seconds, the time it took Elijah to neutralize the threat, how many more do you think would have died in the time it took the cops to arrive? This story is not only one of a hero saving lives and the benefits of public concealed carry, it's also one of a massive media hypocrisy. You see, the mall where the attack took place was a gun-free zone. But had it not been for Elijah Dickin using his own common sense and defying the mall's rules, the narrative would have taken a much different turn. Now, had a mass killing occurred with no one there being able to defend innocent lives, the media narrative would have gone in a direction that would support more gun regulations. But in this case, a good guy with a gun stopped a bad guy with a gun, and it was undeniable. According to several studies, defensive gun use occurs between 1.67 million and 2.5 million times per year in America. Now, that means good people stop violent crimes because they have a gun in their possession. Now, the vast majority of these defensive gun uses never even result in a single shot being fired, because just the mere presence of a gun in the hands of good people most often stops the violent criminal. Elijah Dickin's heroism was so appreciated in a time of need that even the management company who was responsible for the gun-free zone policy at the mall praised Dickin. According to their code of conduct, the Greenwood Park Mall, a Simon Property Group property, is a weapon-free location. But in a statement from a spokesperson on behalf of the Simon Property Group, the armed civilian was commended. They said, "We grieve for the victims of yesterday's horrific tragedy in Greenwood. Violence has no place in this or any other community. We're grateful for the strong response of the first responders, including the heroic actions of the Good Samaritan who stopped the suspect." Now, Greenwood Mayor Mark Myers said, "This young man, Greenwood's Good Samaritan, acted within seconds, stopping the shooter and saving countless lives. Our city, our community, and our state is grateful for his heroism in this situation." Greenwood Police Chief James Eisen said, "Many more people would have died last night if not for a responsible, armed citizen that took action very quickly within the first 2 minutes of the shooting." This heroic gun owner clearly went against the media narrative, so of course some publications couldn't acknowledge reality. even after Elijah Dickin proved to the world that carrying concealed in public saves lives. Left-wing media couldn't fully get on board. According to CNN, having armed people at the scene who are not law enforcement members can create confusion and carry dire risks, according to a data analysis published by the New York Times. Interesting how they're quick to create hypothetical situations of confusion and dire risks, but no mention of the dangers of unarmed helplessness. CNN also felt the need to republish a New York Times headline that read, "An armed bystander who shot and killed an attacker in 2021 in Arvada, Colorado, for example, was himself shot and killed by the police who mistook him for the gunman." So even after the majority of people recognize civilian concealed carry as a life-saving benefit, and after millions of people every year use guns in self-defense, why do some in the media hold on to a dying, defeated narrative? Are they paid to toe the line and support left-wing policies? Or do they really believe the disinformation that they push? Well, maybe a little bit of both. Thanks for watching Bullet Points. I'm Dan Wass for Gun Owners Foundation. You can find more Second Amendment content and updates at gunowners.com.